Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Reverend Douglas Craig, and his title is What is the Power of Grace?
Thank you, Tress. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone this morning? Okay. Well, we're going to do some surprising things a little different today, but let's just start off with getting into the consciousness of being here and being open and receptive. So please join me and know that there is one eternal life, and this source is in everything, through everything. It is everything. And we are a manifestation of this one power and this one source. And so as we gather, we do so today to gain a deeper understanding of who and what we are, and about the journey of self-discovery and unfoldment, and then to pay respect and to honor those that have served us, and their service has given us the freedom to live in a society where there is a degree of mutual respect and the freedom of being. And so with the sacredness of this declaration, let's just take a moment of silence, and let's just remember those in our family, distant relatives, those that we know who've been of service to our country in the time of war. And so with that respect and acknowledgement, we pay gratitude to all those that we honored, and know that to be grateful not only this day, but to be grateful every day for the goodness that we do have. And to know that, as Plato said, a grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things. So as we enter this experience this morning together, we do so knowing that out of it something new and great and good comes forth into our experience of life. And that we are truly grateful for, and we give thanks, and we let it be so. And so it is. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to do 3 different little things. So it might be a little longer than 20 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. Hey, you got the hook. I know you've had the hook before, Vera, and you've used it on me, so, but we don't want to go there. Okay. So it's November 11th coming up, and it's a day of remembrance. And I grew up in a hamlet of 700 people in the Canadian Rockies. And there were, a number of people worked in the cement plant in Exshaw. But the ones my dad hung around with and all of them were veterans of WW2. So I was raised basically by veterans who had a different kind of attitude than people today do, believe me. You're raised to be tough, hard, whether you like to be that way or not. You had to be. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm going to tell a war story about two young Canadian men that were pilots in the two Canadian transport squadrons stationed in northeastern India. And their job was dropping supplies to the advancing troops of the Commonwealth and the Americans that were driving the Japanese out through northern India and Burma over to the Mandalay on the Chinese border. And this was near the end of the campaign. It was about 3 or 4 weeks before the Japanese did surrender. So what their job was, it had shifted, because when the Japanese moved back, they raped all the villagers of all their food that they had and left them starving. So the Allies went on rescue missions, and they dropped supplies to the different tribes that the Japanese had pillaged on their departure. And so one day, and it was about 3 or 4 weeks before the Japanese surrender, right in 1945, these two young men that were best buddies, and they were flight officers, probably 24, 25 years old, were talking, and they were on this mission to drop supplies, and there were still a few Japs in the area, so they had to be careful. So they had talked together, and the last thing they decided is that they were going to meet in Mandalay on the Chinese border and have a beer after the run. And it never happened. One of the planes disappeared, and nobody knew what happened to him. The other plane, and the pilot was my dad. And he talked about it over the years. Never knew how much it bothered him. But in the 1990s, something very interesting happened. There was a hunter in the Burmese jungle, which is Myanmar now, found a downed Canadian aircraft and went in and took the wristwatch off the skeleton and things like that. It was my dad's friend. So they found it. And of course, for my father, it brought a great deal of closure. One of the most emotional experience, the most emotional experience I ever seen my father have. And so if you're interested in the story, there's a 46 documentary in the National Film Board of Canada, and it's called Lost Over Burma, The Search for Closure. And that's just one of hundreds and thousands of stories of our veterans and what happened to them and how they served. And I got a picture here. I'll leave them out there. There's my dad as a pilot, and then my dad and his brother Jack. Jack served in Sicily and Italy as a motorcycle dispatch rider. Maybe that's where I got it from. I don't know. The other boy there is my grandfather. Okay. And another picture of my dad and my uncle there. I'll put them out back so you could look at them. And there's a picture of my dad of this plane. It was a DC-3 Dakota. Americans called them C-47. They were used as passenger planes and transport. So Dad would drop a lot of supplies and paratroopers into battle. And at the end, after they finished those missions, they put them over to Europe and reconfigured his plane, and for 1946 he flew military personnel all over Europe until he come back. Went back to work at the boring old cement plant in the Canadian Rockies in Exshaw. Got married and had kids. Woohoo! But this is a real interesting picture. So that's my generational stuff there. But this is a picture of my grandfather right here, Ernie. And my great-grandfather. Now, my great-grandfather never served in World War II or World War I like my grandfather did, and my other grandfather. But he was in the Royal Northwest Mounted Police, and he moved out west and met his wife in Calgary and homesteaded in Nose Hill, and then moved to Cochrane and was a town constable for several years, and then the night watchman at the plant. And in this picture, my grandfather's going to war. He had an older brother that was 2 years old that died from a diphtheria epidemic, and his father gave him permission. In this picture, he's 15 years old with his dead brother's birth certificate, making him 17. And he registered in the Canadian Expeditionary Forces, and his job was a machine gunner. So he was the guy killing people. And then you ask him the question, do you ever remember killing anybody, Granddad? Oh, he says, too many. But you know, you do remember some, like my gun jammed and the guy next to me had his head blown off, so I took his rifle and I shot 3 guys and killed them that were running away. Keep in mind, 15-year-old boy. And then the end came for him. Early in his 17th year, after battle for about a year and a half, his captain sent 150 men into this mission and left himself. And 150 men walked in, 3 walked out. 147 killed or wounded. My grandfather was shot 3 times and laid in a shell hole pinned down by a sniper all night with a dying Frenchman and 2 rotting, smelling German corpses with him. And was rescued the next day and was taken over, transported over to England and recovered, and actually met my grandmother there and come back and was discharged from the Canadian Army and went to work on his farm when he was 17. And I make a point of telling every one of my children and every one of my grandchildren, I take them aside when they turn 15 and I tell them about my grandfather and what he was doing and try to give them a comparison. You think about that. Whew. So anyhow, it's pretty heavy stuff. So we have to honor not only those that didn't make it back, but all of those that went and served, because the ones that went and paid the price of their life, that was all they paid. Those men that went and lived paid a hell of a price till the rest of their life. A hell of a price that we can't even begin to imagine. Now for me, you see, this comes into the next part of the story. The battle for me didn't happen in a foreign soil. My war was a war on the streets. My war was a war of gangs, violence, drug addiction, crime, all of that. But that was only 17 years of it. But then I did grow up till I was 14. That was the 17 years I tell. But I was bad before that too, I just didn't do, well, I did illegal things, but not enough to get busted for them. But I was bad. And Vera can vouch for it. I met her when she was 16, I was 20. We had fun. 3 weeks after we met, we were arrested. That's one of the stories. There's a lot, but that's another. But I had that war. And so that kind of leads into what I want to talk about and what spurred this was Russ. Because Russ asked me, it was last month or the month before, he says, how did you get into all of this? How did that happen? Did it just happen one day? Because I just tell about one day it happened. Well, I think I better tell the story. So actually, I kind of got interested in it in about 1977. I was just through my first relationship and was hanging out with my buddy and his wife, and they were doing all this, spiritual stuff, but let's don't talk about that. And their next door friend lived next door, who I became very interested in, ultimately married, and we started hanging out and we started talking. And, the idea of spirituality and God come up, and it was like, don't you dare. Keep that away from me, because I'd had a couple of bad experiences with church people in a small town. But I did believe there was something. I didn't know what, but not what I was told. But anyhow, we explored, and I explored all kinds of interesting things. The occult, past life, linear regression analysis, got into mesmerism, hypnosis, got my aunt trained into being a medium, you know, all of that psychic stuff and everything like that. No, God, keep that away from me. Because I don't need it. And so it progressed. And meanwhile, I don't know if any of you have ever had paranormal experiences. I know y'all have, but you just don't talk about it. Okay, so let's just get off the pot. Well, mine were pretty frickin' bad, I gotta tell you. And all of that was playing havoc with me in the same time, really working on my head. Mira knows a lot about that, too. Maybe she knows too much. But anyhow, all of that, and then I got into the Power of Mind, John Kehoe Mind Dynamics. Damn, I turned on my radio in early 79, and he was doing a 4-week course. There was no God, nothing. Norman Vincent Peale without the God, the power of the mind and positive thinking. I'm going to get into this. I took the 4-week course, and I loved it. It was good, and I was really cracking and getting it going. And then I went through a divorce. I got busted and charged with trafficking. My cocaine addiction flared up. I went to a family wedding, and I was telling the people out there what I found out I did 39 years later. It was bad. I had a drinking problem. I was a high-ranking official of a local motorcycle gang. I did the financing and investing activities. Yeah, things weren't, and I lost my job. I'm looking at 2 to 5. I kind of got busted in that. And I'm still doing all this positive thinking stuff and getting results, and I demonstrated something wonderful. I got an interview for a job at SAIT to teach. I remember in December going to the interview. You've never been to one like this, I guarantee you. When they talked to me, they all knew me, my background, but they needed somebody, and they hired me. And they say, Doug, is there anything else you'd like to say? We'll start January 1st, 1980. I said, yeah. Might have to have a week off in March, but my lawyer said I could get out of jail on appeal and finish the term. And they asked if I'd like to expand upon them. I told them they hired me. But that was good because I really needed it. Because I got to do something to show I've changed. I'm going to prison. You get charged a court of Queen Ben's. If you're guilty, it's a jail term. And I knew I was going to get guilty. I just didn't know what. Anyhow, that's another story. And then I remember it was around Christmas time, and there was something that had been nagging me. There was something missing. And I knew it, and I was in trouble, and I didn't quite know how to handle what was coming up. I don't know if you know how to handle it. Maybe you could tell me, because I didn't. Because, I got to get all this stuff off. I got a new job. I'm trying to get out of the gang business. All that, and the addiction business. And I remember, okay, that's it. And then one day, December, I did it, you see. I said, God, if there is a God, or whatever it is, if I can get my life back, I make a commitment to spend the rest of my journey in service, however it is deemed to be. Watch out what you say. I got to tell you, watch out what you say. Don't ever say anything unless you're serious, because you're going to get something you never thought. So there I am, about a week later, and they were trying to, my buddy and his wife and my other gal were trying to get me to go to this place called the Center for Positive Living. It wasn't religious. It was spiritual. Did they talk about God? Well, But I did that. So what happened? Anybody ever have lucid dreams like it was a real thing and it just blows you away? So one night I'm having this lucid dream. I'm in this old theater, and I'm sitting there, and the chairs are there, and the backdrop, the stage, and there's this guy standing there speaking, and it's like I'm there. I wake up, I go, holy crap, I think that's the place you're talking about. I got to go down there and check this out, because this is just too weird. So the second Sunday in January 1980s when I crossed over. And I walked into there, and in the foyer I saw Herman Aftink, the guy in the dream. And I'd never seen him before. Do you know what that did to me? It's better than LSD, for God's sake. It really was better than any of that shit. I got to tell you, I never got that kind of a buzz off of any drugs. It was mainlining, you know. Whew. And so then I'm stunned. Well, okay. So then I go in and walk down. I'm walking down, and it's exactly the same colored curtains, chairs, podium, and I walk and I sit down. I'm stunned. He comes out and he starts talking, and it is just so right. I'm going, whoa. And then I realized I walked in, I was sitting in the same seat I was in the dream. Okay, so I'm hooked here. I got to go back and check this out again. I just slap myself silly just to see if, you know, just like if you've ever done drugs and real high, you come down. I'm just wondering if I'm coming down and this was just something else. I've been doing dope or whatever. But no, I was right quite pumped and excited, so I went back the second week. Okay, here you go, Russ. This is for you. Quite innocent, minding my own business, being open and receptive to being of service. And I'm sitting in there, and I hear the voice. The voice has saved my bacon a couple of times, eh? I didn't know really what it was. And then the voice says, can you imagine this, having a thought like this in your mind, come into your mind after what I told you about me? It says, Doug, you're going to enjoy being a minister. What the WTF? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? What is, how can I'm in the gag business, I'm doing all this stuff I've done. How? That's impossible. And what a weird thought to have, or have something, can't be, I don't think like that, so it had to be the voice, you know. You know what the voice said next? Doug, you're going to enjoy being a minister. I go, what the hell? Well, okay. And that was the third Sunday, and it happened in 1988 when I come up here and started the center. There's a lot of different stuff learning in between there and now, but I got to tell you, that's how it all got started. So that goes into the title of the talk, which we're going to do now a little bit. What is the power of grace? Now, grace, in a religious context, it says it signifies divine favor or blessing, typically unearned, and in a temporal sense, temporary, it can refer to an extra period of time before something is due. You know? And then, a period of grace, that's like in bank loans, we know all that, but this is a little different. Divine favor, the unmerited love, mercy, and favor of God, often seen as a gift that cannot be earned, but must be sustained. So when I first started, after that, I go, okay, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to 12-step. And I started looking at the program before I went. Well, first I surrendered. Well, no damn way I'm surrendering. Let's get that out of the way. Then you got to make a list of all the things you've done wrong and then go make amends for them. I don't have enough time in this life. And that's just what I remembered. Never mind what I didn't remember. I know I had lots of people who would help me, but I still wouldn't get it all. So I had to find a different way. And I just said, God, show me the way. And that's where I got my program, the Transformation Guide, that I'm now putting a textbook on and getting ready to display sometime this year, coming up this next year. Yeah, and so that got me looking and trying to move forward in a different way. And that's the program. And through that, I realized and I come to understand and accept that the burden of the past is lifted from you when you're prepared to forgive yourself. Maybe the world won't forgive you, but once you forgive yourself and then turn to the light and make that commitment, however, not just the word of the commitment, you got to walk the commitment. You got to be the commitment. You got to not question what that does. It took me into the ministry, and it kicked my ass right out back into college after 10 years. I don't know what it's all about. I just followed what I was told to do. And it does it like that. So when you make a commitment, you must back up your commitment with the words that you said with action. Because I always say, and I won't say the word today because it's Sunday, I did yesterday, but BS talks, action walks. And if you followed the threefold success step of Jesus, you'd understand it. Very simple. Ask, and ye shall receive. You don't get it until you ask for it. Seek, you got to be looking, and ye shall find. And then the key thing he said is, knock, and the door will be open unto you. Take the action. How many people would go say, oh, to your neighbor or to your person, I'm coming over to visit sometime this afternoon. Oh, great. And so you go over to the person's house and you walk up there to the door and you stand there waiting for him to open the door. An hour goes by, hour and a half goes by, you're standing there, and finally they just open the door. Oh, how long you been here? Oh, an hour and 47 minutes. What were you doing? Waiting for you to open the door? Well, how come you didn't knock? Now, how many of you would actually do that? Anybody? So why the hell do we think that it's going to happen if we don't do something? Right? We got to do something before something's happened. Well, what if I do the wrong thing? I've done more wrong things than most people will ever do because I've tried more dumb things or more things. Anyhow, I always tell people, be a pig, not a chicken. And they always look at me really weird when I tell them that, but imagine this. The pig and the chicken are out for a walk one Sunday morning, and they're going down the main street of the local town, and there's a local eatery, and the sign says, bacon and eggs, $9.99. Well, the chicken nudges the pig and says, I make the biggest contribution to that meal. Pig looks at the sign and looks at the chicken. He says, for you it's a contribution, but for me it's a total commitment. Right? And I want to leave you with one thing here, and I'm going to close with this, and it's called 99 Steps. I was speaking at Unity of Calgary last Sunday, and the band there, the Unity Band, is really run by Anthony Burbidge, and I've known Anthony since he started. Great musician, great guy. And he always picks songs for my talks. I've been a guest speaker temporary for at Unity once a month, generally for 22 years temporary. Yeah, that's a commitment. Yeah. Anyhow, the inspiration from this song come from a mentor of his. He wrote for me, Dr. Badre Ricky. I'm going, I know that name. Well, his name is Bud. I know him by Bud, and him and I were on a documentary that was made called Choices in the 90s with Stephen Covey and a few other people. And it was something that he said to him years ago when he was struggling, and he was trying to figure out how to achieve all the things he wanted to achieve in his life. And Badre Ricky said to him, you don't have, this guy, by the way, just in case before, he was the head of psychiatry for the Calgary Regional Health District, the top dog. So listen to what he's holding. And then you'll see the song that he inspired. He said, you don't have to have all the answers. Hurrah! That's good because I never had any of them until I got into it. And I still don't have them all. You just have to take the first step. Take one step towards God, and God will take 99 steps towards you. And then years later, it came back to his mind when the moment was right, and he wrote this song. And I'm just going to read the lyrics because all of them are kind of an affirmation. And the chorus is, I take one step to you, and you take 99 steps to me. Oh, it's never been as hard as I thought it would be, because you take 99 steps to me. 99 steps to me. One day at a time, no matter how deep the pain inside, one day at a time. One step at a time, no matter how high the mountain I climb, one step at a time. One prayer at a time, no matter how narrow the way I find, one prayer at a time. Oh yes, or one yes at a time, no matter how wide the hurt inside, one yes at a time. And this is his bridge. Oh, everybody knows it's impossible to know what's coming, like we know what came before, because we didn't. We're blindsided by surprise till we finally realize that it's you, not us, who's really in control. And he means the inner you. One voice inside, no matter how loud the noise in my mind, one voice inside. One path to peace, no matter how cruel the world is, one path to peace. I take one step to you, and you take 99 steps to me. 99 steps to me. So, Anthony Burbidge, 99 steps. And I selected to read that to you because that's exactly what I did. And that's really what grace is. If you turn and take a step towards the light and make the commitment to follow that, then the power of grace is, with the work you do, all of that rotten crap you did is forgiven. I should say almost all of it. Because there is karma, cause and effect. And I will tell you a story one day about the worst thing I ever did in my life to another human being, and the penalty I paid for it when it come back to me. And it did, and it was very clear why it was there. But all the rest of that was washed. And, of course, I'm not saying I did the change right over there, but I was able to move forward and create the beautiful experience of life I got as a Rocky Mountain tour guide, as a professor and business consultant, as a minister, and as a professional Santa Claus, and a papa, and an ardent football fan, hardcore. So, you know, all of that would never have been possible today if I hadn't done that one step. I did the one step through the portal of the door, and it opened for me. And yes, it's hard. But you know what? It's worth it, because at the end of the day, the rewards are great. A lot of times you don't see the rewards until later on in life, because you got to do the work. Just like a farmer's got to till the soil, he's got to break it, clear the land, break the soil, till it. He's got to nurture it, plant the seeds, nurture it, and wait till the harvest. And that first harvest is tough to get ready. After that, it's a little more easier because you got it paved and you got the way going. But if you want to have that as a career, you have to be committed. You can't just say, oh, I wish I would do it itself this year. I get all my crop. No, it don't work like that. And you got to make sure you know what you're planting, because if you plant wheat, you get wheat. You plant corn, you get corn. You plant thistles, you get thistles. You plant stinkweed, you get stinkweed. Well, I wouldn't plant that. Well, quit doing it in the garden of the mind then. So a little bit of wisdom there, tendrils, a little bit longer than normal, but three distinct parts of my life that are important. The military part, how I come to this awareness, and, what is the power of grace? Because, you don't have to make up atonement for every damn single thing you did. Not enough time. Just make the commitment to be guided, led, and directed so you don't do the stupid things as much. Because you still do stupid things. Anybody not do anything stupid the last 2 or 3 days? Yeah, yeah, right. It's just like that, eh? It's just the way it is. So this will be my last trip here till probably this spring, because I start a new season next Saturday, and it's my first Santa experience. Santa season's on next week, eh? I don't start before November 11th. Some other ones do, but I wait till after November 11th for me. And so I start the next week, and I got to tell you, folks, when you get to do what I've done and get clear and to go have that experiences with those children, because, it's hard to have honest experiences with adults. But it's not with kids. They're 100, and you might not look what they say or like what they say or anything like that, but it don't matter. They're being honest. And they say what they think, and they are what they think, and you wouldn't believe the interaction that I get. And they ask questions. Guess who gets this teaching all the time? Do you ever have any problem with the kids, Santa? Yeah, I had problem with one over the last 50,000. Yeah, one. That's not where the problem happens. It's with the adults. Well, I've had lots of problems with the adults, the parents. Ho, ho, ho. And, Santa gets to talk to them in a way that they have to listen to. Very interesting experience. But it's so great because I get paid well for it, but that's not the pay I love. I love the pay that the children give me. And I cannot explain it to you. There are no words that can absolutely explain some of the things those little ones give me that just melt me right down, eh? Or sometimes I just break out in tears, have to take my glasses off and dry them. Yeah. So anyhow, it is a journey, and it can be better than it is now if we do what it is that is necessary to do to become the person that is necessary to become in order to have the experience that we want to have. What do you want to be? Wait till you see what I'm going to be next. It's in the fire right now, and I got 3 projects I'll be displaying next year. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that goodness prevails, and there's always an opportunity for each and every one to step beyond where they are into new and wonderful experiences. So I speak that for you, and I declare it for all of us, and accept it to be true, and I let it be so, and so it is. Whee! Okay, there you go.